Thank you for the intro. Okay, so good morning. I hope you didn't party too much yesterday and didn't drink too much, etc., etc. We'll be actually talking about writing, maybe about those mishaps or some other mishaps. And writing superpowers for geeks, for developers, for you guys and gals. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Brezak. I'm the founder and chief editor of Netokracija. Netokracija covers technology, so business, development topics, startups. We're basically the team writing about what all of you are doing in your companies. And we've been doing it now for 9 years. It's going to be our 10th anniversary next year. That's going to be a big milestone for us. And we have a team in Zagreb, in Belgrade, and that's what we do. We write. So the whole idea of this talk is to share something that we've learned along the way by making you guys write with us or for us or other ways in that little adventure. So today, I'm actually going to be your editor. So that's what I am to my team. I'm the guy that comes in and slaps them around when they can't write something and they tell me they're not inspired, they're not sure what to write about. And it's just a matter of being a really good editor, laughing at them and making them write. Now, the first question you might be asking yourself, although I'm not sure you are because you are in the room, is why we write? Why would you want to write? For everyone, it's different. For myself, I've been a geek since childhood. I'd liked technology. I've liked games, obviously. I was a gamer. And I had the good luck of my mom being a journalist. So I was just from an early age, I knew that, okay, you could write about stuff and it could be published and people could read it and that's cool. But because I liked technology so much, I thought, I might want to be a designer or a developer or something. Well, that didn't pan out. I fell asleep at my first PHP class. My then front-end developer, now lead designer at Netokracija, was pissed off that my designs were just 1 pixel off all the time. I wasn't really precise. You open my Photoshop file, it's like 1 pixel off. I'm hearing cringes from the audience, and that's why I'm not a front-end developer or a back-end developer. But for you that are, you could have a few reasons. The first one is microcopy. So one of the things we still do from time to time is work with companies, helping them create copy for their interfaces, for apps, for web pages. It's not something we advertise. It's not something that we do usually, but when we can help out, we do it. And writing as a skill is great when you are a designer or developer because you can create that content that you're always waiting for someone to bring in and write it yourself. And especially if you're working with clients, you know the drill. They have to send you content, and you're waiting, and the content comes in, and it's crap. Yeah, we can do responsive design, but I could have worked with Lorem Ipsum with this, come on. The second reason is that you might want to ask your boss for a raise. This is an email I got from a team member from our Belgrade office. A good part of having good writing skills is that you can write what you're thinking, you can think about it nicely, you can ask in a nice way. Don't screenshot this, or don't take photos of this one. He's going to kill me if he knows. Or wait, oh fuck, this is being, damn. So you can ask questions that you might not be really ready to ask in person. Another thing is, one of my favorite things is answering trolley comments. Now, most people here, I'm sure, don't like making anonymous comments because A, you guys know your stuff, and B, you know that being a troll on the web is not the best thing to do in life, or I would expect. Some people do not agree. Some people come in, troll. It can be anonymous, it can be by name, and then you read an article where you say, okay, for the digital economy, for apps and everything else, we don't just need developers and designers, we need everyone else. We need sociologists, psychologists, et cetera, et cetera. And then you get a long-winded email. I'll sum it up. you're full of shit. And no, we don't need everyone else. Now, when I was younger, I would get mad. I would get frustrated. I would be like, why did I even write anything if someone's going to troll? Then you remember, okay, most people don't have the time actually to write shitty comments like this, which don't have real arguments, which don't make sense. And with time, when you master writing, then you can write really trolly back comments. You can actually answer them. You can kill the really bad points they have, and you can actually feel better about yourself. I love answering these types of comments on Netocracia, and so do my colleagues. We end up explaining to our dear trolls about how wrong they are, and this is something that makes me happy so much. Of course, our juniors today are not as happy when they get a trolly comment, but when I see one on Slack, I'm like, can I do it? Can I? Please, I want to play. Another reason is that you want to speak your mind. This is an article written by Nicola Plage, who's also part of the community, about the whole STEM revolution. And I mean, Nicola is a developer, and he wrote about this specific topic, writing about how it's not just about STEM. It's not just about STEM. It's not just about development and design. You need everything else. Code is not going to solve everything. I'm sorry, it's not. And the article was really well read. And because Nicola took his time, knew how to write, well, no one really, people commented, but no one could really prove him wrong because his points and research were so good. He actually took the time, and we edited the shit out of this one, where if you read it today, it's just like, yep, makes sense. Makes sense, sorry. You might not agree with the philosophy, but you cannot disagree with the logic. One thing that maybe your bosses or colleagues are asking you, write documentation. If you know how to write, believe me, you can write a lot fast. I studied at the Faculty of Philosophy in Zagreb, which is the school of life. It's not like FAIR, it's not like FOI, it's chaotic. And one of the things that you can do there that I do like is you can hack the system. So what I would do, instead of going to, not classes, but going to not lectures, god damn it, I'm losing a word. Instead of having to do my exams, I would go to my professor and say, you know what, professor, I'm so interested in this topic, I want to write a 40-page paper about it. Can I do that instead of the exam? Yeah, sure. That's how I would pass the class, with good grades, and also learn about the topic. Why? Because I knew how to write. I could type really fast. I could write really well, and it was far easier to write than to do the exam. I learned the stuff in the end because I did my research, but I did it in a way that worked for me as a writer. One thing that you can also do, what will happen is you'll have bad news, and you'll have to communicate it. We see this all the time in the technological field. We had Zuckerberg and we had Elon Musk recently with situations that were not communicated well. Unfortunately, communication is a big problem for most Croatian tech companies. It's something that we're going to cover on Netocracia continually because most founders are engineers, and although we're always talking about transparency and being open and all the bullshit that we can hear on TechCrunch or other outlets, I'm sorry to say that most Croatian tech companies, they can be like specialized or general or whatever, are not really transparent. Do not communicate when they have bad news for their employees or about their products. They're scared, and I understand. Talking to the public that's not going to receive your news well is not good. You can see what's happening when, for example, Mate Rimac has a setback. Index is like, that's the reaction that you could get from the media. That's what you expect when you're communicating to an audience. And because you might not be comfortable with writing, you might just say, nah. The same, unfortunately, happened with Belabit, where Sandro and his team, although they did a lot, they were the first Croatian startup to go into Y Combinator. They created products, they hired people. They did a lot. They actually did a lot because they didn't communicate when things didn't go so well. The community didn't really receive it well. And there were rumors, and everyone was speaking. No one was writing anything because, oh no, I'm going to write something on Facebook that's either pro or con or whatever. and I hear this from like CTOs and CEOs of big Croatian tech companies that might be sponsors of this conference as well. I'm not going to touch that topic. I'm sorry, you're going to have to at some point. And you guys are going to, at some point in your lives, communicate something to the public, and then you will need writing skills. And I'm happy to say that Bellabit now, from what I hear, is doing far better. They're actually working with PR professionals as well, and they're going to hopefully communicate both not just the hype, but also the setbacks in a far better fashion. One very specific problem you might have is your release is late, right? You're late with something. You didn't do your job, and you have to communicate it. In this case, this company was a year late with their promised pre-sold app, and they had to communicate, and they did it well. Now, this is why. But how? Because when you start writing, it's an empty page. It's how do I start? Well, one of the better writers that is well known said it best. There's nothing to writing. It's actually, for writers maybe, very simple, but it hurts. You have to sit down, even today, 10 years of netocratia, I have to sit down and I have to write about a topic that I'm maybe nervous about, and I have to bleed at my desk. And that's why, for example, I have a blocker that from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. blocks everything else besides my writing app. So I have no other choice. Something that might help you with that bleeding is something that journalists call the upside-down pyramid. Why? Because as engineers, and this is something that I learned from my mom. So my mom actually was writing about agriculture. And even in agriculture, of course, you have engineers. And when I talked to her about what her experience was like, where she had engineers writing articles, and now I have engineers writing articles, just like web engineers. Same fucking problems. Same problems. You guys and gals come in, and because you're very logical and you want to be really in-depth, it's like structure, awesome. All points, awesome. But it's boring because you really didn't, or no one taught you how to write an interesting story. It's not something, I mean, when you're writing code, it's not supposed to be interesting. It's supposed to work. So the upside-down pyramid is something that journalists use. You don't wait for the end to do a conclusion, a big conclusion. You go for the kill. You say, this company fucked up, or this company got an investment, or this company did this, or we did whatever. And then you go from there. This is a better worked out structure where you go with the lead, the very important stuff, and everything else, and then you go to the boring bits. First of all, with that in mind, is make an outline, right? This is an example of an outline I made. Very rough. Then you write it a bit. Then you have different notes to yourself that really don't make sense except to you, but it's important to have notes. An important part of writing is also to have in mind that you could have multiple topics, so multiple articles or multiple vlogs or whatever. This can also be applied to video or audio from one topic. So at WebCamp, you have numerous topics. One example that I always like giving is our Serbian and Croatian offices. So I'm sure that most of you here are familiar with Dnevno HR and Dnevno RS, right? Yeah, the one snickering. Okay. So these are far right news outlets that are owned by the same people. One is pro-Croatian, one is pro-Serbian. And then they have a topic where they clash. So the same company, the same media company, I wouldn't call it a media company, I would call them scumbags, but same media company. And they end up bickering about political topics. I don't have to really spell it out what they bicker about, right? It's, for example, I don't know, Croats win the world, our second, wishful thinking, right? Our second in the World Cup. The Croatian outlet is like, yeah, the other one is, well, you know the words, you know what they do, etc., etc. But we don't do that at Netocratia. What we do is try to have multiple outlets on a topic. So I'm not sure if you saw, but something that happened recently is Taxify, an Uber competitor, They didn't really announce it. It just we happened to notice it in Netokracija. They are going to come into the Croatian market. They're hiring drivers, etc., etc. But before Taxify, there was Cargo. So Cargo is a Serbian Uber alternative, right? With a really good influencer base. The Croatian article about them, of course, the Serbian article was Serbian startup Cargo is challenging Uber in the Croatian market. On the other hand, in Croatia, they were championing their local startup. In Croatia, it was the other way around. It was like, a startup from Serbia is coming to challenge Uber on our market? Oh my God. The articles were completely different. It was the same topic, but different points of view. It can happen in your company. You could have this conference, and a designer might write one thing, the developer the other, and that's very interesting. I actually am planning an article series with my mom, where we're going to write opposing views. So I'm going to write the youthful, I guess, view. She's going to write the more experienced view, and that's going to be the same topic and clashing. Now, let's say that you've outlined your story, you might have a topic. What to do then? Well, one of the problems that most people face is they have a draft, now what? Well, then you have to edit, and editing is actually the problem with writing for most people. You do not write an article or any piece of content where you write, then you edit, then you write, and you edit. No, you write your thoughts as maybe dumb or non-argumentative or not interesting they might be, and then you edit. Or as Hemingway said, you write drunk, you let it fly, and then you edit sober. First, give your creative mind freedom, then you edit logically. Because you do not edit while writing, it will always look like crap. I haven't had an article that I've written for Netokracija in these 10 years that has survived from draft to finished article without heavy editing. It just doesn't happen. But unfortunately, psychologically, what you do to yourself when you start editing your first draft, it's like, this is not as good, and you start doubting yourself. And when you start doubting yourself, you'll, in the end, conclude that, oh, I might not want to write about this, which is a shame. Also, please turn off spell checkers. I don't care about your grammar. At Netokracija, we have people that have far better grammar than you, both in English and Croatian. Write your article, edit your article, then worry about grammar. Worry about grammar before you publish the article. Now, the good parts. What's important? Well, first, of course, the title matters. You do have to have an interesting article. You do have to have headings that matter. Some things are obvious. It has to be short, right? It can't be too long because you can't really share it on social media. It has to be to the point. You cannot complicate the article. You have to get to what's interesting. One of my colleagues and friends gets to the point in his articles very, very fast. So if you look at his blog, it's like, yeah, okay, I understand what he's writing about. It's WordCamp and marathon. Okay, I get it. I get what the topics are. But the problem that Lucian, who is now sitting in the first row and laughing his ass off, is doing is he's burying the lead. Running my first marathon doesn't mean anything to someone who doesn't know Lucian. Why would you fucking care about some guy from Croatia running his first marathon? I mean, the article is good, but why would you care? Why would you click? That's something that we ask ourselves in Netokracija all the time is, why would someone care about a startup, or why would someone care about a topic? We have to make you care. But you need to intrigue your audience. An example would be the recent panel I moderated at Digital Lab in a conference in Istria. My writer actually had, unfortunately at the time, a very boring-ish title. But one thing that I knew you guys would click on was if we said something that one of the panelists said, and that freelancing might not be the answer. Ooh, you guys are not going to make all the money on freelancing. Ooh, spooky, taboo topic. And you guys clicked, and you guys commented, and you clicked, and then you saw that the article was really interesting. You saw that there were interesting points. And now we know that this topic needs to be explored more. I guess that Lucian also figured that out for his future articles, because his recent blog post that might be a bit too long is far more interesting. Okay, yeah, the biggest WordPress conference. Okay, now I'm intrigued. I know WordPress. I want to know more. Good work, Lucian. Of course, you can go to some extremes, as our dear Serbian colleagues do. And honestly, I love Serbian tabloids. They're so awesome. Like, if you go to Belgrade, just like go to a kiosk, buy all of them, and just like bring them to me. I love them. They're so like, what can they make a story of? And this is something that you need to do all the time, and this is something that we try to do at Netocracy all the time, is also convey emotion. One thing that you guys are also thinking about might be going or leaving Croatia. One article that was probably one of my most controversial articles, I actually lost a friend on this one. Hopefully the ones snickering know who the friend was. Because people basically thought I was saying they were, well, drama queens, and they are. And they read it, and it still holds true. Another article will hold true for this weekend, right? It's Produženi weekend. Are you working this weekend? Are you a hero, or are you not working and then you're lazy? Intriguing. We share this article frequently, and it always gets clicks and read because it's interesting. So if you do focus on a topic, do you write it at the beginning or the end? It doesn't matter. Mia, my colleague and my partner, says at the end, I say in the beginning. But you had the facts, now you need an opinion. In your case, it might be an informed opinion. It can be multiple opinions, right? It can be the Serbian thing. But are you ready to write? Now let's do this thing really fast, because I'm also losing time. And this was, in fact, planned as a bonus round. So writing is work. I know it, really, I know it. And topics, what your thing is, okay, Ivan, fine, I need topics. Well, 2 steps to getting topics for your articles. First, you're here at Webcamp. Everything that might be a topic for you, write it down. I don't care if it's a notebook, I don't care if it's Notepad, I don't care, just write it down. Just write topics that you're interested in. The second thing is, just think of interesting events or povodi. What's something that's interesting that's currently in the news? For example, can Split be a tech center? This is a topic that wasn't really interesting. Or I wanted to write about it, but no one was talking about it. Then Split Tech City was announced. Okay, so they were doing a project. And I said, now kiss. I want to write about Split as a tech city. They're doing something that's actually in the news about it. Combine the two. And then you have an article that does well. One other thing is, I think you all saw like the Roboteam thing and everything else. Well, Roboteam sucked, but Maker Bueno was a win. And what I wrote then was why Maker Bueno was interesting and Roboteam wasn't. Why? Because I wanted to write about Albert's startup. And of course, what's very important is give yourself time. So this is the real-life screenshot of my notes in Milanote about our event processes at Netocracy. I put everything in, and it's complete chaos. I've been putting stuff in here for 2 years. And finally now we can build the process. And it's chaos. It's complete chaos. But in time, like in the example of this article that I'm also writing, you structure it out. It's important to not start writing and then just get demoralized. Give yourself time, create drafts, give yourself time to edit, and also give yourself time to make all of this happen. Block out time. I mean, you're developers. Come on, batch process. What are you doing? And when you're finished, when you have everything ready, When you need a place to write, don't go to Medium, go to Netocracia, pitch us. Hopefully we publish it. Thank you very much.